All right, so we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you. Everyone was, we actually had to wait a few minutes until we could start legally at the start time. So that's awesome. Everybody's here. I'll just do a quick roll call. I'm here, Leslie Malden, Stephanie Barnes.
Present.
Gretchen Casarati. Hopefully we'll be able to join in. Bonnie.
Present.
Gina.
Present.
Randy B.
Here.
Jessica.
Present.
Jennifer.
Present.
Jay.
Present.
And Genesis will be joining us, hopefully. All right. So we have the agenda. It's a pretty full agenda, but relatively straightforward, I think. Does anyone have any questions? Anything that could legally need to be added? Or Hillary, do you have any input? If not, we would consider an adoption of the agenda.
I move that we accept the agenda.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we had a special meeting on February 8th. I'm at the regular meeting, then we also had the March 21st special meeting. So we just need to approve those minutes unless there are anything to be brought up for discussion or change. If not, we would consider a motion to adopt the minutes of February 8th, 2018 regular minutes and March 21st special meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes for the special meetings of February 8th and March 21st.
Well, the February 8th was the regular meeting. So.
Or the regular meeting, I'm sorry.
Great.
And the special meeting on the 21st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. New business. So I kind of got to do this at the last, because at the last meeting, let the record reflect that Gretchen Casarati is joining us. Hi. So we have all commissioners present. That's wonderful. I wanted to make mention that the first meeting that we had with the new commissioners on board was a special meeting, and they were all three present, and that was amazing. So I got to kind of welcome them there, but since we had a limited quorum that day, just not everyone was there, I'd like to kind of repeat what we did last time and have Jessica, Jay, and Jennifer just kind of say hello and tell us a little about yourself. And yeah. So you want to start, Jessica?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jessica Peters. I've lived in Meridian for going on 4 years now. I am a technical writer with the Mural Reclamation. I live here with my husband and my 2 stepsons, and I have been kind of a dabbler in the arts my whole life. I come from a creative family, and I've been interested in visual art and performance art and writing for probably ever. So I wanted to join the commission and support arts here in Meridian and watch it grow.
Thank you, Jessica. Jay.
I'm Jay Wilson, and I'm relatively new to Meridian, almost a year. Came from Boise, born and raised, Boise native though, so I've been in the Treasure Valley my whole life and love it here, and so is my wife. So have 3 kids, and I'm a photographer. By day, I'm a techie. I work on computers all day long, and so I I've always been searching for something to have a creative outlet, and found photography and fell in love. So that's what I've been doing, and brought me to Meridian Arts Commission.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jade.
I'm Jennifer Sullivan. I'm a violinist, violist, cellist, performer, teacher, composer. I run my own business, and I'm development director for Idaho Regional Ballet.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled with the skill sets that have been brought to the table. It just seems like such a great fresh start for us here at the commission, and so welcome. And we all have name tags, magnetic name tags. So we will be getting some of those. Do we have them? Do you have them?
Yes.
Oh, you're wearing yours. Look at that. I'm wearing mine under my scarf. Great. So thank you, and please remember to remind me to wear those whenever you're out representing the Meridian Arts Commission. That way, at events and things. People know who to ask questions to and who to get guidance from and where to come offer to volunteer for events. So wonderful. Thank you. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
So we need to go on to the revised with our new skill sets that came into the commission. We kind of talked about these committees right before all the changes kind of rolled forward. So we decided that, you know, I was thinking about I mean, honestly, at this point, it seems like we have so much crossover in our skills too, that as we go forward with this, keep in mind that these are brand new committees that we're putting together. We may find out in a few months that someone else's skill set may be more suited, so we can make some switches. This is not set in stone. This is where we'll start, and then we'll develop this new strategy as we go forward. So the current committees, and everyone has expressed a desire. And the great thing about this is that nobody expressed a desire not to be on a committee at all. A lot of you expressed a desire in more than one committee. And so that's a great problem to have. It really is. And so the Strategic Plan Committee will be to start Leslie, Gina, and Jennifer. Events and outreach, which you'll notice we used to have education and outreach, and so we combined the events and the outreach because we found a lot of those were kind of cross-pollinating anyway. A lot of them were part of the same setup like that. The Art Week is definitely an outreach, and it's also one of our biggest events. And even with the concerts on Broadway, almost everything that we do has an outreach component in it that is an event. We have the Meridian Symphony guest young artists at the concerts on Broadway. So we just looked at that and thought, wow, that really could function better and with less redundancy as a combined committee. So we have Stephanie, Bonnie, and Randy B. on that committee. And the Public Art Committee is Gretchen, Jessica, and Jay. So there we go. That's our starting line, and we'll see where we finish. But I'm really excited to start that new strategy. And once again, each committee won't need to meet every month. It can be, to a certain extent, on an as-need basis, although, as I think everyone realizes, consistency with scheduling, when people have a lot of other moving parts in their life, being consistent and having it be at the same time, even if you go and just chat and have a cup of coffee, sometimes can be easier to schedule than reinventing the wheel every month. So it can kind of be up to your committees on that, how you'd like to meet. I know that we all decided that probably the optimal time would be before, so for the half an hour before our regularly scheduled meeting. So 3 o'clock, you could back it up a little bit if you wanted. If you had something bigger on your particular agenda to manage, but 3 o'clock meetings for the strategic committees before the regularly planned meeting. So let's have a little discussion on that, make sure that's going to work out. And does anybody think we'd need more time than a half an hour before?
No, I knew an hour.
Randy B?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, as long as it's not, let me see, as long as it's not one.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Is anybody going to need a 2.5 hour strategic? Okay.
Yeah.
No 2.5 hour committee meeting.
That's cool.
Okay, great. So let's make that, unless anybody feels that we need to back it up to 2:45 just to give it a little cushion, maybe we can just set those meetings for the regular meeting time for the committee meetings would be prior to the regularly scheduled meetings for the commission at 3 o'clock. Hillary, Emily, does that?
Sounds good to me. My only question is if I reach out to committees beforehand and verify that they need that meeting to take place. So if for some reason there's a month, if, as you said, on an as-needed basis, your committee might need to meet more than once a month. So just tell me if you guys can figure out a time to meet amongst the 3 of you in your committee, just let me know so I can notice it. And if I send out something that says, hey, I'm going to notice committee meetings and you guys don't need a committee meeting, then just let me know and say, hey, we don't need that this month.
So, perfect. So does everybody kind of understand that the regularly scheduled times will be at 3 o'clock, but it's PRN, it's as needed. And unless for your committee meeting, you feel like it's better to just keep it because it makes it more regular. But if you need more meetings or a different meeting time, then get that to Hillary and we will find a better time for it. How does everybody feel about the doodle polls for scheduling? Is that still kind of working?
Yeah.
Should we make that kind of the format for, is that easier for you, Hillary, to get things scheduled if people respond to those?
I don't always get responses to those. So
That's kind of my point.
my preference would be that the three of you on your committee figure out your time on your own and then tell me when you're going to meet. I do this, that's my job to be here. So for the most part, I can meet with you. And there's going to be rare exceptions. And if I can't meet with you, you guys could still take notes at your committee meeting and then share those with me to forward on. So I'm happy to still use doodle polls as needed, but it's going to be per your guys' request if you have a need to meet. And like I said, my preference is that you would figure it out on your own.
Okay, great. So what we need to do then, if you need more time or if you need to change your schedule, amongst your committee, find a time that works for you, then get that meeting time to Hillary so that she can do the public notice. And hopefully clear some of her time to be there if possible. So, good. All set? Yes, awesome. Okay, so we're moving on to 4C then, the Meridian Arts Foundation. Nancy Roundtree is back.
I'm not standing up there.
Why?
Yeah, I'll sit right here.
Nancy, I have to give a little background here. I have to give her some kudos. Nancy was on the original Meridian Arts Commission, and it was through her vast efforts in working with the city and working with a lot of people that the first big public art display went in downtown Meridian, the one that's over as you're driving this way, the beautiful silvers, yeah.
Actually, the first
Yeah.
big art installation was.
Oh, was the, yeah, and I have to say about that piece of artwork, that's why I'm here right now. When I walked in, somebody told me when you walk into the city commission,
Look up.
city offices, look up, and I did, and I went, oh my goodness, I was so impressed. So she has a ton of history with the arts in Meridian.
So we'll call this the hot seat.
No. No, so I just,
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I was
So very
hoping
much.
that it wouldn't just be me here today. That would really have
Would have been
been helpful, but.
nice.
First of all, my last name is not spelled correctly on the agenda, so just an FYI. I know you know. So.
Yeah, no,
I
no
guess,
D.
I guess you have to start this because I'm not here to do a presentation.
Okay.
I'm here at the request of the commission.
Okay, well, how this started is as you probably know, because you kind of keep up with our timelines, we're in the running for having the strategic plan that we came up with while you were still on the 5-year strategic plan. It's sundowns at the end of this year. And so we're looking to re-strategize our plan going forward. And we just wanted to make sure that we knew how we could articulate with you guys, because you have such a wealth of information about the arts in Meridian and such a history. And ArtSIP has been so successful. And so we want to make sure that we include in our, because we're kind of, you remember how we came up with this strategic plan that,
I remember.
and I was
work.
brand new. And so I was kind of like a deer caught in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, that's a great sculpture, but help. And so what's happened since then and now is the Meridian Arts Foundation has been established, which I think was kind of already in the planning stages at some point, but it was after. But now, as we're coming to the end,
Stages.
as we're coming to the end of,
had it- we had that and having a full-time or part-time resource funded position with the city
okay.
from the very beginning. But never moved forward on either one of those things at the time that I was here.
Okay.
So really, Meridian Arts Foundation was formed primarily to provide us a community-based resource for all facets of the arts. And the advantage that the foundation has over the city is that we are not controlled by the same governing rules and regulations that you are with the city.
Right, because you're a 501c3 as opposed to,
And originally, we had hoped to have that component as part of the Meridian Arts Commission so that things that you wanted to do as a commission could be projects through the 501c3 and not through the city. But that didn't happen. So the foundation really has no tie whatsoever to the City Arts Commission.
Okay.
We are a resource for any art group, art person, art project, and we finally have established a grants process where before what we did is just had people throw stuff at us and we voted as, and we have that ability, which is, you know, I'm sorry you don't, because it's wonderful to have a
different tax
board
structures.
and you get to decide as a board how you want to spend your money and what you want to spend it on. We do not have a really good strategic plan right now. We're working on kind of revising what we're doing.
Okay.
We have even looked at trying to develop our foundation as give people ownership in it. So we would have members pay annually to the foundation. We haven't gotten this off the ground yet, but we're working with a person trying to help us get something a little more concrete set up with the foundation, where those members of the foundation would help choose the grants that we would give out every year. So, you know, we're still trying to decide who we want to be and what we want to be and how we want to be. We have funded, as you know, Concerts on Broadway. We did some funding last summer with your project you had at. Anytime you've come, we've tried to help with that funding.
Yeah.
But, you know, our hope is to branch out more than just helping City Arts Commission. And really, all we are doing as far as fundraising is Art Sip. And it's become really...
It's a cool event.
Really nice event that people seem to really like.
I enjoy it every year.
Anyway, okay.
Okay,
So
and
ask away. If I can't answer, I won't.
Oh, that's all right. And you know, even though the Arts Commission has been around for, you would know better than I, but we're kind of a little bit there with you as far as trying to figure out how to go forward strategically. And I would love to have as much interplay, because this is the way I feel about it. I'm a proliferation type of person about the arts. I honestly believe that Broadway is successful because it has a lot of theaters, not one. I really think an abundance principle works best for the arts. And so having the Meridian Arts Foundation here, my biggest question is, how can we help and how can we work on, you know, how can we have a good articulation also helping you with the projects that you have going, like at Art Week? How can we cross-pollinate? Can we add things to our agenda that could help you with Art Sip? Could we talk about different, you know, how can we help each other?
Well, keep in mind, Meridian Arts Foundation is not a project-oriented foundation.
Okay.
We are supporting those projects.
Okay.
So, in that sense, really, that's not something that you can help us with. Our projects are whatever you submit to us that we decide if we're going to fund and what amount we're going to be able to fund financially with the money that we have available. Art Week, we have moved our Art Sip event from July to September to coincide with your Art Week.
Yeah, and I thought that was, and that's kind of where that came from. I thought that was,
Yeah.
that was great because it's kind of that cross-pollination that we have where
Well, anytime we can get a lot of
a
people
lot of events,
moving around down here, regardless of overlap.
exactly, it
That's
starts to
really
feel
a
like a
good thing.
festival. And it starts to feel like
Sure.
a bigger event with,
And we've almost
cool.
maxed out our size at Gwen and Brent's, but we hate to move it. We're just gonna limit the size because it's so perfect there.
Yeah. And that's kind of what for me brought that articulation around is when it worked out so well with Art Week. And the weather was so nice for Art Sip.
It got a little cool, did get a little cool.
Not hot,
I'd rather
though.
be in July, but that's okay. So, really, I'm not sure that I can answer that question for you. We did review these questions that were submitted to us at our last board meeting, and some of it, I'm not quite sure the direction that you're wanting to go with it. I do have a question about the Auditorium District that currently they were working on through,
The
I've got to
chamber,
stop and
yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Through the Meridian Development Corporation, they're
MDC.
working on that, and they've now taken the performing arts component out of that, is that correct? See, to me, the biggest mistake we've made is what we did after we worked like mad dogs on getting something downtown.
right, and the
To
feasibility
just
study
throw it
that,
all out the window. And, without that
yeah.
component in this city, I think that, you're looking, and now you're looking at 5 years, 10 years from now. I'll probably not even be alive by the time you get that going.
Strike that from the record. That does not make the minute.
It's true. Look at how long it takes to get something to like
know.
that big to be developed and finally get it up and running. And then to just spend all that time and energy. We worked really hard in a large group to try to make that happen. And now it won't even be part of the Auditorium District.
Yeah, the constant issue with venues, not only here but in the state. Boise's got its own things going on right now with a new feasibility study, whether or not it's going to be a new performing arts center or a full workable renovation of the Egyptian Theater, and whether that's even possible. That was in the Statesman, and I had some inner dialogue about that. The venue,
That's pretty
making
limited to
venues,
space.
making venues central to the success of the arts is, it's hard, and I don't say that I fully understand why that is.
But you have to have some central
Gathering place.
to make it happen. And I don't think we've actually reached that here yet. I think in the summer, having the concerts on Broadway is
Yeah.
wonderful. But
Fantastic.
having everything event-wise really right here doesn't help as you
Okay.
move out any distance at all from right here.
Yeah, downtown should be it.
Downtown should be bigger than just City Hall, right here.
Okay, well, and this is how I think the Meridian Arts Commission and the Meridian Arts Foundation, because the Meridian Arts Commission serves at the pleasure of the mayor and the city council. However, the information that we bring to the table is, I think, what they what they'd like us to do. And so this kind of information, because I hadn't heard that about MDC, so that,
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that public
official?
information? I
Might
just
not.
heard that through the grapevine.
I-
I was asking
don't know.
you.
I don't know.
Madam Chair,
hadn't heard
I don't
anything.
know
Yes,
what
Gretchen.
is public or not. MDC would have to answer that, and the chamber was involved in that as well. And I have as well heard that there is no performing arts component in the project they're moving forward with. But it's also 10 years before anything's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to do more studies, and then they're going to raise money for a campaign and figure out where they need to get signatures, and there's a lot of work that's going to have to go into making that happen.
And I think that, to me, the most important thing is that the people that are advocating for the arts continue to do so and continue to make the case for the things that they feel, because that's why we're all here, is to bring, the decision-making process is outside of us, but it is our responsibility, I believe, to bring to the forefront what we feel we can give counsel as far as what we feel is important to grow the arts for the city. But the decision-making process is certainly not ours. We are consultants, so to speak. But I do think that the more, yes,
Unless we
Gretchen.
include in our strategic plan that as a creation of a public art facility is something that we value and we would like to work toward.
And it is,
Throwing that out there.
it is in our
I agree.
current strategic plan.
And of
It's
course,
there.
that's not something we can do as a foundation, as small as we are, but we certainly
Right.
could and would have worked in every way and will continue to support that plan.
Well, and
In the
that
event we
is,
do that, but
it is in our current strategic plan. So that might be something that we feel we haven't accomplished yet, that we continue on to the next strategic plan.
sure. And I do think that the foundation, what we could do that might be helpful is keep in mind that we're a small group. Everybody's really busy. We finally are getting a web page set up and
Yes, going digital.
word, and getting this grant process going for you to be able to have someone on your commission look at that site and say, oh, well, I know 3 or 4 different groups that might need some funding support. I mean, we've always funded the Young Musicians Awards at the Symphony. That's been a really big one for us. We've helped the Children's Theater with grants for kids to do their performing arts classes if they can afford to. I mean, we've done a lot of different things.
Yeah, awesome.
But only because they've come to us and asked for that. So now with this new granting process, if you guys get where you're looking at that and know that it's available, you can shoot that information out. I mean, like with Gretchen, I'd like to see us do a young writers program at the library because that's my interest.
Okay.
And have an awards going out for that could be funded by a grant from the foundation. So those are
That sounds
the kind
great.
of things that, that we're really looking at. We've had a lot of some really kind of unusual, and then some that are right in line with what we're thinking. Groups and people come and asking us for money to fund these projects. But I don't see the foundation funding, although I'm speaking personally, not from the board, a big public art project, but not to say that we wouldn't support some aspect of a big public art project.
Yeah.
But really what we're wanting to do is help promote a lot of different kinds of art in this community.
Okay.
And let people be more aware. People don't know. I mean,
And that's what we
I
can be
didn't know
helpful
that you were
with
doing the
is-
public art project that's down at the end of Meridian Road.
Yeah.
It showed up.
Ta-da.
I mean, and I did know about your painting of the utility boxes because that got started before I left.
Right.
But some of the other things, people, you know, all of a sudden they just appear and people are driving by saying, oh, and they don't have any idea who made that happen. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how you get past that.
Well, and we could help each other too in that way, as far as you know, just spreading the word, and that's why we were wondering. I don't know if you guys would be interested in this, having a liaison from the Arts Commission to so that we could keep on board with information and not spy on each other or anything, you know, but just find out. So that stuff, I find this extremely helpful.
Well,
because now I know you're going to have a website.
And maybe we're really both groups at fault that we haven't just
reached out,
come and sat here in a meeting and chatted about what's going on. And I know Hillary's attended one of our meetings. We do not post our meetings. We aren't required.
You're not required to, right?
We've been meeting every second Wednesday at noon at All-American Insurance. We're kind of changing that around a little bit because we have to accommodate people who are working.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm here today and not someone else. But, you know, we meet once a month, and we rarely not have a meeting. I mean, we always have a meeting. We have, our board is really small right now because we've lost a couple board members due to work schedules, and now we're trying to, you know, find new board members to come in and.
Well, we have 3 new commissioners just today.
I know.
You heard. So
I can't believe that this commission has 9.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And this is you came the first time. I think this is the first time. Well, this is the first time the new people have been here, and it's the first time we've all been in attendance. So you're in a rarefied moment.
Well, when did you go to 9? This year?
A couple years ago. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is awesome because, I mean, think about the information we've already exchanged today. I love the idea of articulating so that we can just all be better equipped to support and build the arts and be aware of what's going on and find out and go, this is a great project. We'd love to give something to that. They're coming to present to you. Would you suggest that one of their resource funding could be the Meridian Arts Foundation? Here's their grant process, their website, so that it gives us another way to be able to guide the art process and give them resources that are available that they just don't know are here.
Especially if it's something that you cannot.
Right, exactly. Because we like to be able to inform the public about what options for the arts are available here when you move in. What's here? What events are here? What foundations? What opportunities to develop and grow as an artist do I have while I'm living in Meridian? And I just,
Well, and going back to what you were talking about, the liaison thing, just speaking for myself and what we have been doing with the foundation, it's hard enough for people who work to find time in their days to commit to one meeting.
That's true. I hear you.
And when you consider the fact that if you have an ex officio member, they have no say, really. I mean,
you're an observer.
There's value in them being there, but no vote. And not that everybody has to have a vote, but when you have the vote, it makes you realize that it's important for you to be there. So you're willing to give up something to make that happen. But
you have some skin in the game that way.
Exactly. So I'm not sure how that, I can tell you that I probably would not want to be the one if that's what we decided to do, because I have other things that I'm committed to. away from the foundation. But, you know, maybe at some point in time, or maybe we could figure out a way to make it something different than that. I mean, there
Madam
certainly
Chair?
is no.
Yes, Jennifer.
As I have experience in grant writing, I would like to volunteer to become the liaison between our organization and the foundation.
She would. Is that,
Well,
would you be?
But I don't know I don't know how you want that set up. I don't know how, and I don't know how the foundation board
Yeah.
would perceive that. I mean, I don't know.
Let's have this be a starting point. I think it's something interesting to explore. I don't think, you know, we have to make any decisions today, but I certainly think that we could be doing better as, you know, I talk about proliferation and abundance, but as you know, it's a small group of mighty people, but it's a small group of people that are involved in this effort to lift. And if we have more, you know, lifting together, maybe I just think we would be able to get the word out better, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the money or projects or anything like that. Just me being out in the community. I'm doing Deja Brew open mic. Me knowing you have an event coming up, or that you have some, I can say, you know, I can use that forum to say, hey, Meridian Arts Foundation, you know, and support the Meridian Arts Commission. You know, we can kind of have a united front as far as public advocacy for arts in general. I just think we have so many valuable assets here, and I just want to find out by trying to see if we can articulate better. And so, would you be okay taking that possibility back to the
Yes.
foundation?
I would take it back, but, you know.
And that we have a volunteer that, if you're interested in it. I mean, only if you guys think this would be helpful. I don't.
Well, see, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure how that, I don't know.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know
Jay.
the Boise Arts and History website is really nicely organized for this type of scenario, where they pull in grants not only for themselves but other organizations and post all those grants and call for artists on their website, and it's really easy to find and find what you're looking for and then apply, and all those things are really pulled all together from all different organizations.
Okay.
So I think something kind of similar might be a benefit in this situation as well. I know the Meridian website has some parts to that, but it's not quite as
This is a good template for that.
this. Yeah.
Kind of a unified. Awesome. Thank you. And she's brought. Can you see it there, Nancy? Is that up on your screen there?
I've looked at it. I know what it
You
is.
probably know. Okay. Oh, look, they've even got a national. That's cool. I should have seen that. So why don't can we, go ahead, Hillary.
I was just gonna say, Madam Chair, one more suggestion before we tie things up. For now, I think that's a great starting point, like you said, and Nancy can share this information with her board and see what their interests are. And we definitely don't want to push them in any direction they don't want to go.
No.
And we don't want to make their meeting time more inconvenient. So definitely everything that your board is doing, let them keep doing it. But if we can fit in, great. I think in the meantime, too, if it might be helpful to you guys, even though it's just a one-way communications, I can at least send you guys the minutes, the actual minutes from our meeting, so that your
That's a great idea.
chance to see what they're talking about, if they're interested in reading it.
To start, there might be something you go, oh, we can, you know, that's interesting to us.
Yeah, sure. And I will take this back.
Okay. And we certainly, I mean, I totally understand. I get that burdening somebody with even one more meeting in a month, like I talked about, I know that it's such an army of the few. And so people that work for advocacy for the arts are often doing a lot of volunteer hours. And so I get it.
Well, you know, it's great to have an ex officio person. Right now, we're trying to rebuild our board with people who are going to be committed to the foundation.
Right.
And that really is more important for us right now than
Yeah, that's your
anything
priority.
else. And trying to get this webpage set up, get our grant process going, because we will be awarding our first official grants. I mean, the way we're setting this up at ArtSip in September. So,
Very cool. Okay.
yeah, I'll take this back and
Thank
and
you.
let them know. I don't know if there's anything else on this list that, well, and I think the communication was always there. I just think that your focus is here, our focus is here.
Right.
Now, figuring out how you can,
Exactly, how we can articulate, because they are so distinct, which is good.
the way it should be, right?
Yeah, that's
separate,
Yeah, separate and distinct.
completely separate. Yeah.
But from the advocacy standpoint, and I'm talking about general, like me out in the community, how can I stay apprised of as much as I can so that I can use whatever forms that I have to advertise and get it out there? Like you said, the arts project, it'd be so helpful if we could have a little spot on your website. There will be new, just cross-pollinate that way, because you'll also be communicating with a different audience. I mean, because they are so different. You're going to meet more individual artists and more...
Our groups.
Yeah, and art groups. Well, for instance, we have a situation right now when our last board meeting, we decided to, because our resources are kind of spread thin, as you know, and we decided to kind of streamline the events that we're doing, and we voted not to continue doing Dairy Day's art show, but we'd like to see the event continue. And so we were coming up with, well, who can we ask to reach out to art groups? In that case, you may have had a grant application from an art group that would be a perfect fit to take our place over there and make a better success of it and not lose that ground, because people enjoyed that art show, but our resources are just stretched a little too thin. And we aren't, that's not really our specific... It was a great thing to try and to get started, but it's not really central to what we do as an art commission in our strategic plan. And so those types of things where we just, it's just basically spreading the thin resources that we all have, lifting together and making them more useful to all of us. That's kind of the way I see it.
So what are your plans for the arts in
Well,
strategic planning?
That's what...
If you're eliminating that, where's your money going? To continue concerts?
Oh, that was just, the Dairy Days Art Parade was just one small event that we only took on 2 years ago.
Right.
We were producing the event for the Dairy Boards Association. So it was kind of outside our traditional scope, because we usually initiate events, like Art Week. We kind of build it. That was us producing an event for someone else. And so it was a little bit different. And it found out to be just too much work for us to get around. And this year, none of us are going to be in town. It's also at a time when everyone travels during that time. And so, yeah, I was like, well, that kind of nixes that. But it was a good experiment, and because it turned out it was a nice addition. We don't want to see it go away, but we need to outsource it to someone else. And so the Meridian Arts Foundation may be able to say, hey, we know just the person. Let's see if these people want to do it. So it's, yeah, things like that. But our strategic plan, that's part of the reason we're kind of talking, is we're just starting to look at it. And we're kind of trying to, instead of the way we did it, where we did it all in one intense day, which I loved, by the way, because I hadn't been there for most of the year. And so for me, that was like, yes, I kind of felt caught up. Well, not really, but at least I got a toe in the water all in one day. But this year, we're trying to tackle little bits of it at a time, so that we've thought through all these things by the time we get to when we actually have to, because, we're good through the rest of 2018. So, yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, I already have it.
But Hillary, I think that's a great idea. We'll just start. And obviously you can get the minutes online anyway, but that just saves you a step, and we'll just give you our minutes
Yeah,
so that
and-
if there's anything that interests you or that you have input in, or
Well,
then,
I think just
yeah.
knowing, I mean, you've always known that you can communicate with James or Joe. I mean, you've got Joe here every Tuesday night
That's true. That's true.
to filter or send out any information or ask any questions you want to ask and have them come to our board.
Okay.
So, you know, that's, I think
Awesome.
that's something you haven't taken advantage of that you could.
Yeah.
And
Right.
also the chamber, I mean, James is active in the chamber. I should be and am not, but.
You can only do so much,
well, that's
Nancy.
not- yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When you get my age, you can just say, okay. So,
And that's a good reminder by somebody who has done this for a long time, that there are things that we haven't been taking advantage of, that we can, and resources for communication and just having more of it.
well,
Thank you.
and that, knowing that, I mean, you have so many different, we have so many different needs for the arts in this community
Yep.
that we do not even know about, any of us.
Right, right.
And that's what's a shame. I mean, I don't know, maybe we need an arts network where, and not just like Boise cities, but something where
Yeah.
people can get that information. It can't be us, because we don't have the resources to create that kind of a web page or a website. We barely can get our own up and running. But-
Like a community calendar, community arts calendar or something.
And
with
you
it.
know,
We kinda
maybe
have,
we
but
ought to
not
think
really.
about doing some kind of a, not monthly, but maybe quarterly, little art info session thing.
Ooh.
Have you guys ever thought about doing that? I mean, we don't have any place to do that. We don't have the facility, we don't have the people who can set it up and do it, but, you know, that's another thing that might be really helpful to the artists, groups and individuals in this community that would help
Yeah.
generate some of the arts down here.
That might be something interesting to put into the Initial Point Gallery's opening quarterly. Presentation, small, short, sweet, as long as the artists were.
Even if people don't
board.
come, if they know that there's information available and they can
Mm-hmm.
access that information, that's a bonus to all of us.
Love it. See, this is what I'm talking about right here. I mean, really, yeah.
Well, you had
Good.
me a little scared when I looked at this list. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, man, I am not getting in the hot seat.
And no. Nancy, and I feel badly that it was really, there's no hot seat for you here. All it is thank you.
Chatting.
I mean, chatting, and yeah, and we're just so grateful for you and the community, for the Meridian Arts Foundation, and for the wealth of knowledge that you have. Because I'm not new here now, but I'm still, I travel a lot. And so it seems to me that I really need to have resources who know more about the longevity of the arts in the community and what's needed to inform me.
I'd like to have you look at Ogden, Utah.
Okay.
Go in on their city website. They have created a phenomenal downtown artsy.
Their Egyptian theater downtown that hosts some of the Sundance is
Well, but they
Brilliant,
do all
yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
even fantastic car shows, but it's all through that. I mean, they have really, and 15 years ago, you wouldn't want to go down there. But
So they've done it in a short time.
a fantastic job creating, and that was through the city of Ogden. But just
Very
look
cool.
at it.
Okay.
See, we've
Thank you.
kind of modeled our grant application after theirs because I've seen kind of what they've done down there. I mean, they revitalized the whole downtown, the little core area. If you've not ever been there, If you go through, it's really nice.
have
They have
driven
the
through
train
there.
depot at one end, the old train depot.
Yeah.
I didn't even know a train ran through there. But it's, yeah.
And what I like about that too is that comparatively, if you're talking about demographics, those are larger populations. But what I find when I look nationally is that a lot of the, like Paducah, Kentucky, a lot of the places that are more isolated and not in proximity to a larger city where the constant thought is, well, people will really tend to go where they live. And so
They don't
those
wanna
places
have
that are a little more
Fight
isolated.
traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, even.
And to
go
do
Boise-
more.
Yeah.
But Ogden is its proximity to both Logan and Salt Lake City.
And it's not a huge, I can't even
So
remember
it's-
what the
yeah, that's
population
interesting.
is of Ogden. But
I don't know. But it's,
they do
yeah,
a really nice job, I think.
very cool.
And they have a really wonderful little performing arts center down there that, I don't know if it's privately owned. But they
I
do
don't know.
the kids' dancing projects, and I'm sure they do school plays.
Are you talking about the mixed-use Egyptian theater?
I'm not sure if that's the
bet
one it
that's
is or
it.
not. It might be. It looks really old inside the way it's
Yes,
designed.
yes. That's the one, and
it's
they,
fairly large. I mean,
yeah, they have a
I'm not sure what the seating.
big screen, too, that sits behind the scrim curtain in the back.
But they have a nice
I know that
stage.
theater.
It's every bit as nice or nicer. Actually, I think it's bigger than Rocky Mountains, where we've had the children's theater there.
And that's a great facility.
And the whole
Yeah.
auditorium's bigger than that. But
Wow.
just look
Yeah.
at it. It's kind of an interesting
Cool.
what they've done down there, I think. So
Thank you. And I just cannot thank you enough for being willing to come
Nice to
in.
see you guys.
And good to see you, too. We miss you, Nancy.
all right.
All right, thank you. And
you.
and thank the foundation, but diss them for not being here to be with you. We would like to see. Tell them you made tons of decisions on your own because.
Somebody who had more knowledge than I did about all this. Come and talk. Okay.
Thanks. All right. So we need to move on then to D, the ethics. Oh, yes. Hi.
Hello.
Emily is here to educate us about open meeting laws.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Kane. I'm the Deputy City Attorney, and I provide legal advice to the Arts Commission typically. There are 4 attorneys in our office, and any one of them could help you, but I'm typically here. Is this microphone on?
Doesn't seem very
I don't
loud.
feel loud.
Oh, there
Guess I
it is.
can-
Very directional.
Okay. Well, if everyone can hear me, I'll just keep going. So I'm going to move pretty quickly. Don't feel the need to memorize this information. I just wanted to give you a quick overview. So just to let you know that this, some of this, some laws do apply to you, and you need to be aware of them. But when an ethical situation comes up, feel free to just give me a call rather than try to figure it out yourself, please. I'll start with open meeting laws. Do the open meeting laws apply to you? Yes, they do. The law says that all meetings of a governing body of a public agency are open to the public. So as you know, all of your meetings are open to the public. That includes commissions that make recommendations to a public agency. Since you make your recommendations to the city council, the open meeting laws do apply to you. That means that commission meetings must be, as I said, open to the public. Everyone has to be able to come. There are timelines about noticing your agenda 48 hours ahead of time for a regular meeting or 24 hours for a special meeting. You really need to follow your published or adopted agenda, and the law does allow you to add things to your agenda even after you've started. You have to have a good reason. If you're adding an action item, you may not vote on that at that particular meeting. You have to wait to your next meeting. So
That's new, isn't it?
that's
Is
brand
that
new.
what Hillary said?
That was in a bill that was passed this year, and it adds the clarification for, I think it really incentivizes you to have a good agenda ready before the meeting. So if there's something you would like to talk about, please let Leslie know. She's in charge of your agenda, and make sure it's there ahead of time. It's much easier than adding it at the meeting, though not impossible. Things do come up. Open meeting law also requires you to have summary minutes, which Hillary takes care of. A meeting is, by definition, convening and either making a decision or deliberating toward a decision. A decision requires a quorum, which is half plus one, and an action. Deliberating means receiving information, or exchanging opinions. And this calculus becomes important when you find yourself with other commissioners and you wonder, am I in a meeting? Am I at an unnoticed meeting? The Idaho AG says that the open meeting law should not be evaded by holding smaller meetings. So subcommittees are a little different. We do notice those just like regular meetings. But if you accidentally or on purpose have a quorum, that is a meeting of the entire commission. So you shouldn't try to break into little groups to talk about things without having an agenda or opening that to the public. It's a little quiz for you. Is this a meeting? If there are 5 of you at a barbecue talking about food, probably not. That's well, definitely not. If you're talking about food, you're allowed to get together. You're allowed to socialize. You can talk about food and your homes and
unless we ever have a food critiquing arts event.
That's exactly right. Good point. If there are 5 of you at a barbecue talking about whether Meridian should put a mural on the water tower, that's probably not a meeting. It doesn't. It's a social gathering that you're not deliberating toward a decision. But if that item shows itself on your agenda, you're later asked to make a decision on that. You need to say, "Oh, we found ourselves at a barbecue talking about this, and this is what was said." So disclosure is always the cure for communications that take place off the record. So anytime that happens, it's always better just to say, I want the world to know I had this conversation. So that's an example.
Can I interject a little bit there
Please.
too? Because when we were talking about public arts advocacy and a lot of that today, because when you're out in the public and you love the arts, you get drawn into conversations about art. Everyone does.
Sure.
And we don't want to discourage. We want to openly communicate, but just let people know. It's also nice to know that if you get caught in a group discussion that seems really interesting, just to make people aware that I am on the Meridian Arts Commission. So sometimes, and then remember it so that you can disclose.
Yes, and I'll talk a little more about ex parte communications, but for the open meetings laws, this definitely, if you're in a group and you're talking about, you like art, if you're talking about art generally, that's totally fine. If you find yourself talking about an art piece that you're going to be asked to make a decision on, you need to really scale back. So I don't mean to oppress your social gatherings, but please just be aware of what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, there's the answer. Oh, sorry. So if there are 5 of you at a barbecue talking about a mural proposal on your agenda, that is probably a meeting. It's still social, it's informal, but you're deliberating even though you're doing it informally. So again, just be cautious. If there are 4 of you, so there's not a quorum, it's still probably a meeting. So sorry, there's the answer. It keeps sneaking up. It's not technically a meeting, but don't do it. Please avoid having those discussions because you're still deliberating. You're still talking to each other about stuff that's on your agenda. So do that here, please. Okay, here's ex parte communication. So this is where you receive off the record information or opinions about things that are on your agenda. So people do tend to approach our elected and appointed officials about matters that are on our agenda, and that can be okay. It's always better to say, hey, will you please come to the meeting and share that, or will you please send me an email and we can share that as part of the record. It's hard to shut people down if you bump into them at the grocery store. Just remember that conversation and try to disclose that later if it's a matter on your agenda. Another thing to be careful of is going on your own site visit, doing your own research, making your own interviews. So if you're gathering information off the record, that either needs to be shared on the record or make sure that it's part of deliberations. You might sit in a quasi-judicial capacity when you're making a recommendation. That term really applies more to an application in the land use context, so you're almost never going to have that. However, you might be asked to choose between two things, two proposals, or anytime you make a decision, you do need to observe standards of fairness. So something to be aware of.
Can I go back to ones that just as an example that we had today? So we had Nancy here, and she was talking about now that was on the record because the Boise art history, it came up on our. I saw that research was on the record and was part of the.
That was an example.
The on the record. But later she said, what about the Ogden City website? And so would that be considered, so if I were to go home today, just as an example, and look that website up, I would need to disclose that I did go on the Ogden City website at that point. Is that
maybe
what you're talking about?
You know, I really like this new legislation that talks about the action items. So
I do too.
And I guess it's listed as an action item, but really you're not. The action item was not to decide which website should we use as a template. If it were, I think that yes, that's something you should look at together on the record, or make sure that everyone's looking at the same information. But where that just came up in the course of the conversation about some ideas, some brainstorming, I'm not sure that.
Okay.
It counts as, a decision that you're being asked to make or a recommendation that you're being asked to make that where you're kind of gathering information off the record. I think certainly if you saw something on there and then use that information in a later decision, definitely you should say, I saw this on the Ogden City website, and Hillary could pull it up and everyone could look at it together.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Ex parte really comes into play where you're asked to make a decision, particularly between two things, but it just asks you to be fair about what you're putting into your decision. The Supreme Court calls this a fact-gathering session without proper notice, so that's the interplay between the Open Meetings Act and the ex parte rules. So just try to avoid that as much as possible. Again, you're not held to a standard of disinterestedness. You're here because you're interested in the arts and you know about the arts. So it's okay to be in your community, talking to people and thinking about art and looking at the world around you and thinking where art might fit in. But if you do receive that ex parte communications, you just need to disclose the information. Try to figure out who it was, you don't always know, and a general description of the communication. As if you do find yourself in a situation where someone's giving you essentially off-the-record input, do get their name so that you can at least disclose that.
Okay.
Again, rare for the Arts Commission. So it's inappropriate to go to the proposed site of a future mural that's to be discussed at an upcoming commission meeting so you can see what it looks like. That's an off-record fact-gathering session. However, let's say you live there and you drive by it every day. You don't have to change your route. You can just keep driving by. It's best to just say, oh, by the way, I drive by that every single day and I'm very familiar with it. The window's really big, and I don't think that piece of the mural will fit very well there. It's okay to do that. If the commission as a whole wants to go to the site of a proposed mural, that is not inappropriate ex parte information gathering, but that is a meeting, so it does need to be noticed. And the Parks Commission is a good example. They go on site visits all the time. They take field trips to parks and pathways and the rec center, and so it's really, that's totally fine. We just need to make sure it's noticed. We need to take minutes, even if the minutes say we saw a pathway, and we have to make sure the public can attend that meeting. The open meeting law does not require you to take public comments or testimony, though Leslie may allow that. An executive session is, I cannot foresee a situation where that will come up for you, but if it ever does, we will guide you. Just for your information, there are specific exemptions to the open meeting requirement where you can close the meeting and we go into the conference room and have essentially a private meeting, but super unlikely that you would ever have to do that. If you feel the need to do that, please talk to me in advance. We do have a lot of folks call in on the Arts Commission, so you might already know this. We can meet by phone as long as we notice it, and at least one of you has to be physically present at the notice location. Everyone has to be able to hear that, and you can never have secret voting. There's no secret voting in public meetings. So that, for example, the phone person couldn't send an email with their vote. The email meetings, however, are not allowed. They violate the notice requirement. Nobody is physically present. No one can hear you, and it's essentially a secret vote. So Hillary's messages saying, please attend, please let me know who's coming, here's the packet, those are not deliberations, so that's okay. And same for any subcommittee leaders, it's okay to send emails about your subcommittee meeting administration. Anything you do in violation of the open meeting law is void. It's like it never happened, and it's a complete redo. Anything you do as a result of that meeting is also void, which can become a pain really quickly. So the fix is a do-over. It's best to just avoid the violation in the first place. If you have a secret meeting, you knowingly violate the open meeting law, you could be individually sued and fined. That, again, is very rare. It's hard to do. I've never heard of anyone being prosecuted for an open meeting law violation. That would be really weird, and I can't imagine how bad it would have to be. So, however, just don't do it. Anyone could sue you if they thought you had a secret meeting. So just make sure your meetings get noticed. Keep Hillary in the loop. Okay, your bylaws. So starting with the city code, Title II in chapters 1 and 2 of the Meridian City Code regulate and establish the Meridian Arts Commission. It makes an annual report mandatory, which Hillary oversees that and helps with that. The code says that when commissioner terms expire, the position is noticed, so you must then reapply for your own spot. After 2 successive terms, the third term must be approved by City Council. And if you're absent for half of the meetings in 12 months, this is an automatic dismissal. So please attend. There's no exception for being excused. And we do count special meetings in there. So be aware of that. You do have bylaws. The bylaws require you, as does the law, to comply with the open meetings law. Appearances at the commissioner at the discretion of the council president. Elections are in December, and the sitting vice president is automatically nominated for president in the next election cycle. Your bylaws are 3.5 pages long, so these are just kind of the highlights. They're pretty typical bylaws, and I'm happy to give you a copy if you don't already have one. Oh, that was quick. So a few ethics provisions to be aware of, and again, don't feel the need to memorize, but just to make you aware of these, if this situation comes up for you, please let me know. So a self-interested contract is one in which you, as both a business person or an individual, are interested and the commission is considering. So the most likely scenario might be that the commission puts out a call to artists, and as an artist, you might want to respond with a proposal. So typically, the general rule is that is not allowed. I will talk about an exception here. The first step is always to contact the city attorney's office. The exceptions are that there are no other suppliers. That's, in this context, a little different because art is a professional service. There's an exception if there's a disaster. There's an exception if the commissioner has a remote interest in the contract and makes a written disclosure. So if you work at a company that's going to be awarded the contract or something like that. There's also a special exemption for unpaid commissioners, and none of you, as you know, are getting paid, so we can follow the competitive bidding rules that are set forth in the statute. And it's essentially, we just need to make sure that it's put out for bid, even with professional services, so that you are on equal footing with other members of the community that might want to bid on that project or participate in that project. A conflict of interest is where you're asked to make a decision as a commissioner that will benefit you as an individual, as a business owner, or someone in your household, personally or professionally. So it's, as I'm sure you're aware, it's voting on something that will then help you as a in your personal life or professional life. Again, first contact the city attorney's office. That it's always a really fact-specific analysis. If we find no conflict, you can just keep on trucking. If we find that you might have a conflict, the protocol is that you submit a written statement describing the conflict, and then that would be part of the record. The commission would look to me, and then I would provide some advice. That advice would either be to allow the conflicted commissioner to participate, and that's usually the advice is to follow that procedure with the exception for unpaid commissioners, or the advice could be to excuse the commissioner from further participation. The decision is ultimately up to you, so you can decide if that conflict is one that would be inappropriate or not. So often there is a conflict, and it's okay to move forward because it's been disclosed and it's determined to be really not a big deal. It won't influence the commissioner's decision. Okay?
Madam Chair.
Genesis.
Emily,
Hi.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry, I was in a meeting upstairs.
No.
Emily, could you give an example? I think this is one that an example would really probably be helpful for the commissioners.
Okay.
I know, and even with the council, sometimes it's like, do we have a conflict or not? We're talking to Bill, and so can you think of something that might be worth disclosing?
Thank you.
So actually a really good one is, so Leslie's involved with Wine Glass Arts, and they are our vendor who holds the contract to do concerts on Broadway. And so that was actually it worked really well. That was disclosed. We went through the process in 1813-61A, which I think we probably would have anyway, because there are competitors in the area, not a lot for that. Certainly not as qualified, I have to say, as Wine Glass Arts for that particularly narrow skill set. But we did put it out for bid, and I know we got possibly two other proposals, and Wine Glass Arts was determined to be the most qualified proposal. So that was a situation where we were aware of the potential conflict and Leslie did choose not to vote on whether or not to recommend Wine Glass Arts. So that was, you just sort of abstained rather than have everyone vote on whether you should be excused or not, which is completely fine. But had you insisted upon voting, then the commission would have said, Emily, do you think there is a conflict? And I said, yes, we've gone through the procedure. She can vote or not vote depending on what you decide, and then the commission would vote on whether or not to let Leslie vote, notwithstanding the probable conflict. So that would have been weird. She spared us that by abstaining, but certainly there are instances where that's going to come up, partly because it's a relatively small arts community, and partly because you're on the commission because you are interested in the art, and many of you are artists. So I think that probably that scenario could arise. So yes.
I'm sorry, I just had to interject.
Randy.
I have another meeting I have to get to, so I just had to excuse myself.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Randy B. has a prior commitment. He will be leaving.
Gifts and favors. So commissioners may not accept gifts of more than $50 in value. You definitely can't accept any gift, even if it's less than $50 in value, that might influence your actions on the commission, and you may not grant favors. So I tend to think that's going to feel icky if that happens to you, so that should raise a red flag to you. $50 is the limit, and that is really firm under Meridian City Code, so please keep an eye on that. Please don't accept bribes. Please don't be corrupt. There are if there's an unlawful city contract, also very rare. There are consequences. For conflicts of interest, there's a fine if you fail to disclose your conflict of interest, and you do benefit from that. And there's also a general provision for violating Meridian City Code. Again, these are very remote, but just to give you the worst case scenario. In conclusion, I've created a little acronym to help you with governmental ethics. Listen to your pangs. Am I receiving a personal benefit? Avoid ex parte fact gathering. If you accidentally or on purpose do collect facts off the record, disclose that. Notice, be aware of your obligations under the open meeting law when you are together and deliberating. No gifts, or observe the $50 limit, and self-interested contracts. So there are procedures in place to let you enter into contracts with the city, but please make sure you follow those statutory procedures. All right, you know where to find me if you have any questions, and there's a link here to some really good manuals that the Attorney General's office puts out should you wish to further research this engaging topic. All right.
It's engaging. No, thank you. Thank you, Emily. I really, that last page where it talks about the
pangs.
Yeah, the pangs, and the one before that where it talks about the
scary
corruption. I mean, it's, but thank you, because I think these are things that we need to keep in mind all the time. And the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway for everyone here is that if in doubt, an email to Emily is always appropriate. Even if you have a discussion at a meeting or anything, just email Emily and say, hey, this came up. These people wanted to talk about, they were really excited about this project. I had a conversation with them, because that email puts it on the record. And she can also give you good advice about.
I'd be glad to help you put it on the record from there, for sure.
Yes, put it on the record. And she can also, we're not perfect. And so if we've made a mistake, she'll say, hey, it would have been better if maybe you would have done this. And then next time, because it's a learning process for some of us more than others, I think. So
well,
thank
you for emphasizing that. Yes, anything big, anything teeny tiny, don't think anything is too small. I'm happy to talk about it. So, okay. Thank you.
And is that PowerPoint available online that you just?
So I'm gonna steal it from Emily and save it into your guys' meeting packet for this meeting, so you could pull up the meeting packet again and look at it.
Thank you.
I will figure that out.
Okay, so that moves us on to MDC, our budget proposals. So this is what we do every year for we regularly make an ask for MDC, who graciously, generally support several our programs. So Hillary takes that to them, and could you fill us in on that?
So in past years, the Arts Commission has requested that MDC support $10,000 towards concerts on Broadway, and that they support $5,000 towards traffic box wraps. This last year was a little different because we requested their support for the mural, the Meridian Mill mural, but if you wanted to follow your historical requests, those would be the two that you've made to MDC in the past.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead as traditionally. I don't think we have any other requests or needs for this year. We're kind of set on what we're doing. So Hillary, are we good as far as the budget for the mural? Do you feel that we may need to have any added expenses come up in that way, or are we, it seems like we're on budget with that.
So this budget request is for FY19. So if we were short on any mural funds, we would need to figure it out before October of 20.
Okay, great. So I say we go forward with the concerts on Broadway, our traditional ask, and the traffic box wraps. Is there anything else that anyone thinks we need to cover, or?
Madam Chair, do we have to vote on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So with no further discussion, we would open the floor for motions.
I move that we keep our ask for the budget for fiscal year 2019 for the Meridian Development Corporation as it was prior to last year, the standard ask.
Standard ask, so $10,000 for concerts on Broadway and $5,000 for the traffic box wraps.
That's correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Hillary. And we have, this is an interesting and fun new venue, the GEM Center for the Arts. So take it away, Hillary.
This will all be really brief. Essentially, Marty Schindler, who most of you guys have met and talked to before, has been involved in this endeavor of establishing the GEM Center for the Arts over off of Vista. He wanted me to extend an invitation to all of the arts commissioners to come to their next month's, or it would be this month's third Thursday event. So I've included the kind of information for that on my admin report. I would request, though, that you guys, if you are interested in going, it says April 19th at, I think it's like 6 or something. If you're interested in going and meeting with Marty and talking about that project, please let me know so that I can let him know who to expect and how many to expect. He also offered to take you guys out to ice cream afterwards if you'd like to go learn about the GEM Center. And then he has been talking to these two kind of entrepreneurs at the Still, which is an ice cream shop in like Bodo area. So if you're interested in learning more about the GEM Center for the Arts, please just let me know.
Great. That's not over our $50 gift limit, is it? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Great, thank you. So let Hillary know or myself if you'd like to go. I think I will probably be going to that, so I'm really curious about that place. So, old business, the Meridian Mill mural design. Bonnie, would you like to lead on that?
I don't really have anything. I think Hillary probably has more.
Hillary?
I can contribute more to that. So you guys had approved the design concept at that special meeting, and the Zamzos hadn't weighed in yet on the colorization that you guys had a chance to see. So two of the Zamzos, the parents, really preferred a more photorealistic approach. So
nice.
Artists created a different rendering that I forwarded to Jay and Bonnie. And essentially, Zamzos do have a lot of control over this. So their input is really vital. When we presented that colorized design to City Council really didn't love the colorized sky component that Sector 17 and the Zamzos kind of agreed upon. That was a discussion where Callie said, okay, Callie Zamzo said that this is a nice compromise. You know, my parents really want the photorealistic down, but we can keep something kind of more wild on the top. City Council really liked the idea of a full photorealistic color mural. So that is what they approved on Tuesday. So this is the same design as you guys saw before, but they made a digital mock-up per the Zamzos requests to see what it would really kind of look like as it is photorealistic color.
You know, it's interesting, that top one, scroll down. Could you scroll down and show the top? That kind of yellow, the second band up there that's part of the sky, reminds me of the foothills during the winter. It's interesting. But the sky's pretty too. I mean, so this one on the bottom is the one that's been approved.
Yeah, so City Council approved this, and the following day, MDC also said that they would prefer the blue sky over the that colorized striped sky.
Okay. Very good. Then we don't need to take any more. This is just for our information only. The decision's been made, and there it is. So it's pretty. I like it.
Great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, everyone who put time and input into that process, and I can't wait to see it. So thank you, Hillary, and thank you, Bonnie, Jay, and Hillary, all for being part of that. So the Heroes Park signage. Hey, pay attention.
Sorry, I got excited about something.
Oh, good.
So Heroes Park signage, I'd asked you guys, I think it was in February, to approve a not to exceed of $400, but the silver powder coating that was put on that sign was like twice as expensive as the black powder coating that's put on our other signs. So the total cost of that sign was actually $463.50. So, I mean, I would ask for your approval, but we already installed the sign. So if you'd like to approve that, that's an expense on your guys' account, that additional $63.50, you're welcome to that motion.
I think just to have it on the record that obviously yeah, let's go ahead and make a motion to approve that extra $62.50? $63.50 for the Heroes Park signage for the silver.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that we approve the $63.50.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You know, we could have almost finished that vote with the all in favors because I think everybody seconded that motion. So pick and choose on that. All right, good. All right, the West Ada Frames judging, and we have Jessica, Jennifer, and Bonnie that have all responded. And can I say, it was amazing how quick we got responses and how many, Gina offered as well. So, yeah, I'm really happy at the quickness in the engagement, and I'm sure that makes it easier for Hillary too. Get those quick. So thank you so much, and thanks for offering to do that. And 6, reports, presentations, subcommittee reports, liaison reports, and staff reports. I just wanted to say that for the record. Liaison reports, the performing arts, Gretchen and Hillary. Gretchen or Hillary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to, I'll be brief in the interest of time, mention a couple of things. The Meridian Symphony Orchestra has the Rising Stars performance coming up on Saturday, April 21st at 7:30 p.m. at Centennial High School. And that performance includes the 2 winners of the youth competition. And they are both outstanding young violinists and would be great if some commissioners could attend. Additionally, mark your calendars. The symphony has their free concert in the park at Kleiner Park on June 9th, also at 7 o'clock p.m. So keep an eye on that date. And then the Treasure Valley Children's Theater is starting to gear up for summer, so they have their Imagination Lab happening on Saturdays over at New Ventures Lab just around the corner. They have performances 11 and 2 p.m. Of a fun creative program for kids, so I encourage you to take a look at that and keep your eyes open for the performances of Seussical kids in June. I think that's all.
Yay, thank you. Hillary?
Madam Chair, one more addition. The Children's Theater actually sent us a written report, so I added that to your guys' meeting packet if you'd like to read it on your own time. It's really interesting, and they give a report on Willy Wonka Jr. and share some other insights. And I wanted to share with you guys also the program for that, for those of you that didn't get a chance to go. So that's in your packet if you're interested in reading that report.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, the Initial Point Gallery, Bonnie or Gretchen? Or Hillary, as always.
Well, Madam Chair, Hillary covered me by forgetting that I signed up and I did 2 months in a row. So she started and I picked up the last reception. But it was another huge success, basically another all-male show. With easily 50-plus people in attendance at the reception, tons of people, great conversations, really active, fun, positive environment, and sales. I can't remember his name. Bert sold like at least half of his paintings. Oh, yeah. Wow. There are a lot of stickers on the show.
That's cool.
So thank you, Hillary, for covering for me until I could get over here.
Yeah. It's a great show if you guys haven't had a chance to take it or take a look at it yet. One thing that came up from some people attending that show that they brought up to me was the idea of having artist name tags. So we used to have like kind of, it was like a best show kind of frilly ribbon that we used as artist name tags, but then we had a lot of artists kind of say like, I don't really want to wear that. But the person that told me about having an artist name tag suggested even just like a silver name tag like we do for the arts commissioners, and just having it say artist, just something to help distinguish who the artist is for those people that don't already know the artist personally. So I did list this as an action item in case you guys are interested in approving purchase for probably like 5 artist badges. That's about, if we did one person in each quarter of the gallery and someone in the middle, that's 5 artists. I know that for the large artist groups, it might not be enough, but if they have 5 representatives,
Okay.
those badges are about $10 per badge.
I think that would be a nice and elegant touch. I mean, I think also, since we would only buy 5, we could possibly, for those times when we don't, if we've got more artists, just for egalitarian, we could have for that particular show, it won't happen that often that we have more than 5, but we could have the stick-on tags. But I love the idea of having it look a little bit more elegant for them to wear, and it's also easier for them to keep on, I think, through an evening. So I think that's a great idea. Is there any input or thoughts? We could come up with, would you put an initial point gallery, guest artist, or something like that on it that also just has the words initial point gallery on it, so it kind of...
Sure, if you guys, if the board or if the commission in general is interested in this and wants to approve a not to exceed amount, you could authorize a person for me to run a design through or something. But I think saying something about initial point gallery, featured artist, or something like that.
Yeah, featured artist, that sounds good.
That's true.
Genesis.
Madam Chair, it's my only thought on that is if you look at your name tag, did anybody have your name tag with you? The more letters you put on there, the smaller the text is going to be. So I think that it sounds great, but it's a small panic, maybe IPG artist or...
Okay.
But putting all those words on it, it's going to be so small that it's going to have a thing and nobody's going to be able to read it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. So IPG, featured artist who is fantastic. Is that too much? Okay, so we'll come up with something that...
Artist of the month.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Jay.
Maybe, since we will have commissioners there at the meeting as well, wearing their silver ones, do we want to do a similar color, or do we want to maybe do a different, like a black with, or something different to set it apart so there's not confusion? That's
a good point. Jay just volunteered to work with Hillary on the design for the... Good job, Jay. I mean, that's what I thought you were saying.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
One of the galleries that I show at when you're the featured artist, they do the plastic sleeves, with the pin on the back or else the little hook on them, and then they make individual name tags with an image. They use one of the images, like the image you submit for your feature piece. Your signature piece, and then the name on them. So it really isn't a huge amount of work to do those, and it's very inexpensive because those little plastic sleeves are either reusable or the artist takes them home.
Oh, that's interesting, and you find that that's more traditional at the...
I don't know if it's traditional or not, but it's a nice, it has, you definitely can tell who the artists are because they've got something that's got an image, their image on it, and their name overlaying the image.
Hillary, how would you feel about that approach?
It sounds lovely. It sounds like another task for me to do. That being said, I make the posters and put their images on there. So as long as I don't have artists saying like, oh, I didn't bring that picture.
Oh.
Okay. I could always just have some backup ones that just say artist also. So if they complain about theirs, they have a plain one, or they don't have to wear it.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and what happens if we approve a not to exceed amount and then we decide to go with the other plan? Is that a problem with... because not to exceed means that we can spend 0, right?
I think that's
If we choose.
fine.
Okay, so let's go ahead right now, because I can tell that's going to be a little bit of a thought process for Hillary, and like she said, it does add another task. So why don't we go ahead and do a not to approve, and then hopefully, because I do like that idea, Bonnie. That's my favorite. Yeah. So if Hillary, if it's not going to be too much work, that more personalized approach, I think, is kind of what we'd like to do. But in case it turns out to be too much, because I know how much you have to do, why don't we go ahead and do the not to exceed? Because it's going to, actually, it's going to cost us a little money either way, because we'll need to get the plastic sleeves and do the...
If you guys want to do a not to exceed for whatever you decide, I'll work with Jay and Bonnie to finalize what that's going to look like.
Okay, let's do a not to exceed then, as if we are going to go for the second. Why don't we just take a little poll? This is just for group discussion, just to see who'd prefer which. Just down the, Jessica, which do you think would be?
In terms of which style?
Mm-hmm.
I like the more personalized approach.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's just that way you can go up to the artist and know their name right away, and then that's less for us to have to track in terms of getting a badge, like a more expensive badge back from them every time.
That's a good point. Jay?
I do like that personalized approach, even if it's not as personal, just because, yeah, those are $10 a pop if we go the expensive route, and if they walk home with them, which they likely will, because they'll be coming off that reception high, and we'll leave and we'll have to try and collect, and it'll, I think, create more work in that sense. And it's nice that we then are able to also send them home with something that they can put in a memory book or something like that. I think there's some advantage to that as well. So I like that personally.
Ebony?
Those were my exact thoughts as well.
Okay, good.
I agree.
Yeah?
Yep. Agree.
Bonnie agrees with her idea.
I am completely indifferent. I think name tags are a great idea.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we just took an official poll. So why don't we go ahead and approve a not to exceed? I think it's safe to say not to exceed $50 for getting those, getting the setup for having those name tags each month.
Madam Chair, I move that we have Hillary use a not to exceed amount of $50 in investigating and purchasing name badges for the artists showing in the Initial Point Gallery.
Thank you.
Second that.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you, Hillary. And we are now to the approval of the monthly financial report. Hillary.
So I had noticed some errors in your other financial reports that I hadn't noticed before. So this report summary looks a little bit different than possibly the last month that you saw. One of the things I hadn't done or hadn't asked finance to do was to separate out our MAPS allocation for this fiscal year. So you'll see that $5,000 that we traditionally allocate to traffic box wraps from the MAPS funds shows up in its own line there, as well as the carry forward from last year. This just helps to better clarify and make our record more transparent. I'll continue through really quickly. As far as expenses go, I did purchase new name badges for the new commissioners. We had that public art sign that you approved the additional expense for. And I did end up purchasing 2 acrylic sign holders for the gallery, since we will have more galleries with 5 artists, and we only have kind of 4 places to display a bio and price list. It just gives us a little more flexibility, and those were about $13.
Great.
Those are our expenses for the month. And then we received donations, and we are continuing to receive before people install their gallery maintenance fee. That's been kind of a pain to track down, but I'm doing it. So Mandy Riley and Betty Hazlett both contributed donations, as well as, I don't know if I pointed out last time, Joni Fry from her exhibit that was in December and January. So all of this is revenues for you guys.
Very nice. It's nice to know that people are selling some of their work up in the gallery. That's fantastic. But, okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for Hillary on the budget expenditures? If not, we will move on. Oh, the demo open.
Madam Chair, I
Yeah.
move that we approve the financial statement.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Gretchen. Okay, the demo open government. Could you?
Demo Open Gov on city's site. So this is just one more tool I want to show you guys really quickly. So if you go to the city website and click finances, it takes you to basically this huge list of transparency type reports. You can click any one of them and then see not only max current expenses, like to date, it's updated every night, but you can also see other departments, other projects. So I wanted to show you guys that this exists and let you know that it's out there. It does a little demo for you when you first open it up, but if you have more questions about it or if you're interested in exploring it, just let me know. It's kind of a fun reporting tool. And I'm considering integrating like graphs that this can make into your financial report, so we'll see.
Yeah, very cool. I like pie charts. They're for simple people like me. All right, thank you, Hillary. And we have the annual report for City Council. I did a report for City Council, and it happened. And it was wonderful. They're always very supportive. Next year, it'd be awesome if there were more of us available. I know that we had a short year this year, and we had to back it up a month, so it was kind of a bit of a rush this year. But it usually is so effective if we have sometimes more than one person speak, especially since now, this year, we're going to be going into our committees. We will have a little bit more specialized sections of information where we may have more input to particular questions that council asks us. So this year, because we did have to back it up and prepare it so quickly, it was difficult to make that happen. But just for next year, if we can find a time where more can be there, I feel like it's always better for us to meet with the city council so that they can all just see us there, standing there together. And also, when there are questions specifically that I feel someone else could address more accurately or thoroughly, I'm always willing to say, Jennifer has information on that. So we can kind of get to know our city council better, have them get to know us better, and answer specific questions should they come up. So just for next year. Anyway, but Genesis was there at the city council meeting where I gave the annual report. Oh, it was entertaining. And I couldn't read it, so I really had to go on the fly.
You did a great job.
It was fun. But I wanted to thank Hillary for it. She also did something that was, she had some pictures going on and some interesting, entertaining things as well as informative. So thank you, Hillary. And quickly moving on from that to the administrative report. Hillary.
In the interest of time, my administrative report is in your packet. Please read it. There are some things in there like the City Hall annual picnic. If you're interested in that, you've got to follow up and email Laura Lee to let her know you're interested in attending. Indigo, Idaho is looking for volunteers at the art show coming up on May 19th and 20th. If you're interested, you can also just directly contact indigoidaho@gmail.com. And then there's some other fun little facts in there that you should read. One of the best things in there is also a letter from Mary Jensen. So please read her letter because she served on the commission for a long time.
It is a beautiful letter. So thank you. Wow, this was a very, very long agenda. When we met to set with the mayor to set the agenda, she looked at it and she went, wow, that's a big agenda. So thank you all. I think we got through it quickly, but we were also very thorough. And we will be watching your email because we'll be planning to have for the April meetings the May meetings, we will be starting our committees at 3 o'clock prior to, so keep in mind the scheduling for that. And if there's nothing else, we would move to the last motion, which is to adjourn. Everybody wants to stay.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So much concentration on all that.